but the children are very welcome to stay because we're about to tell a story. And I am going to need some help from some of you. I'm wondering if any of you this morning is feeling at all particularly like an elephant. Elephants are very large. Would you like to be an elephant? Ellen is feeling like an elephant. No. Okay. You would feel like an elephant, but she wants to just stay there and watch the story. Perhaps someone else is feeling like stomping around like an elephant. Anyone feeling that way? Bill is. Good. Okay. You stay right there for just a second. Though, actually, would you like to demonstrate stomping? That's very good. That's very good. All right. We don't need you for a second, but we are going to need, at one point in the story, for the rest of you to make an elephant noise. Does anybody know how to do that? You do? Wow. Actually, I learned something about it. Anyway, come on, elephant noises, everybody. Excellent. See, I knew you know how to do this. That's great. And what about a bull? What about bull sounds? I'm so glad you're here. Okay, good. Let's just demonstrate a bull sound. Good. All right, now this one may be the hardest of all. Deer. How do deer sound? They snort, don't they? Okay. All right, so there's an opportunity for you later to make deer sounds and bull sounds and elephant sounds. Not yet, but you can be ready. I also need a couple of kids to help me collect things, be servants collecting things. Can you help me? No? Big people? Come on up, guys. We need one other collector. Oh, good, we got two of them. Okay, good.
So, a long time ago in India, there lived an empress, a royal leader who believed she was wise and fair as an empress should be. The people in her province were rice farmers. One day, the empress decreed that everyone must give nearly all of the rice to her.
And you all have rice, so we pretend rice. So can you just collect it over there? Can you just collect it over here? Yeah. Put your rice in the collection bowl.
And the empress said,
I will store the rice safely, so in times of famine, everyone will have rice to eat, and no one will go hungry.
We're still collecting.
each year, the empress rice collectors gathered nearly all the people's rice and carried it away to the royal storehouses. For many years, rice grew well. The people gave nearly all of their rice to the empress, and the storehouses were always full, but the people were left with just enough to get by. Then one year, the rice grew badly, and there was famine and hunger. The people had no rice to give the empress, and they had none to eat.
Are you hungry? Look hungry.
I am.
The empress's ministers implored her, "Your Highness, let us open the royal storehouses and give rice to the people as you promised." "No," cried the empress.
Are you going to let her get away with that? Come on.
The empress frowned.
How do I know how long the famine may last? I must have the rice for myself. Promise or no promise, an empress must not go hungry.
Time went on, and the people grew more and more hungry.
More hungry.
would not give out the rice. One day, the empress ordered a feast for herself and her court. It seemed to her that every now and then an empress should have a feast, even if there was a famine. A servant led an elephant from a royal storehouse to the palace carrying 2 full baskets of rice.
Okay, elephant, come on out.
The elephant stomped loudly through the town.
Leave the elephant. Leave the elephant. That's good.
A village girl named Ronnie saw that a trickle of rice was falling from one of the baskets. Quickly, she jumped up and walked beside the elephant, catching the falling rice in her shirt. She was clever, and she began to make a plan. Back at the palace, a guard cried, "Halt, thief! Where are you going with that rice?" "I'm not a thief," Ronnie replied. This rice fell from one of the baskets, and I am returning it to the empress." Then when the empress heard about Ronnie's good deed, she asked her ministers to bring her before her.
Go sit down, elephant. Thank you so much.
I wish to reward you for returning what belongs to me. Ask me for anything and you shall have it.
Your Majesty, I do not deserve any reward at all, but if you wish, you may give me 1 grain of rice.
Only 1 grain of rice. Surely you will allow me to reward you more plentifully as an empress should.
Very well.
And then she explained that if it pleased her highness, the empress could reward her in this way. "Today, you will give me a single grain of rice. Then, each day for 30 days, you will give me double the rice you gave me the day before. Thus, tomorrow, you will give me 2 grains of rice. The next day, 4 grains of rice, and so on for 30 days.
This seems still to be a modest reward, but you shall have it.
And Ronnie was presented with a single grain of rice.
Greedy, powerful, if clueless adult. Actually, more than tricking her, she will find some way to teach her what really matters. Goodness will triumph, and the people will no longer be hungry or afraid. It's a familiar story, and one that always happens this way. The child is the teacher, and the adult is the one who needs to learn the lesson. Not the other way around in stories, which is interesting because in regular life, it's children who go to school and get taught things by their parents. It's children who need to do the learning and adults who are the teachers, which is maybe why we need to hear these stories. It feels good. It makes sense to the heart to celebrate children in our midst. Not just because they're cute or funny, but because of some essential seed of goodness that shows through, even to those of us who haven't been children in a while. Wisdom about what really matters and what is possible, and a passionate attention to justice. These good things are associated with childhood and youth before they are corrupted by disappointment and distraction, sidelined by fear. But when we look closely behind the stories, we notice that these wise and loving children are not really all alone, despite what the fairy tales say. In the real world, the way we want it to be, and sometimes is, children grow up in a wise and loving context of family, or neighborhood, or school, or congregation, with people who look for love and wisdom in a particular unique child and teach her or him to see that too. It's not easy being the kind of congregation that is such a context, such a holder of children and adults. Love may come naturally to us, but wisdom comes out of experience and learning and forgiveness. Out of trying again when we don't get it right. Out of a willingness to laugh gently at ourselves along the way. Out of choosing to hope, to look for a solution or a new way when most of the smart people all around us are explaining why we're fools to even try. We need stories to remind us of what matters. And we need one another's stories to remember that we have a part to play in making a wiser, more just, more loving, real world. Would you join me, please, in a moment of quiet together, of reflection?
So, on the first day, Ronnie was given a single grain of rice. The next day, she was presented with 2 grains of rice. And the following day, Ronnie received 4 grains of rice. On the 9th day, Ronnie was presented with 256 grains of rice. She had received all 511 grains of rice, only enough for a small handful.
This girl is honest, but not very clever. She would have gave more rice by keeping what fell into her skirt.
On the 12th day, Ronnie received 2,048 grains of rice, about 4 handfuls. On the 13th day, she received 4,096 grains of rice, enough to fill a bowl. On the 16th day, Ronnie was presented with a bag containing 32,768 grains of rice. Altogether, she had enough rice for 2 full bags.
This doubling adds up to more rice than I expected, but surely her reward won't amount to much more.
On the 20th day, Ronnie was presented with 8,388,608 grains of rice. 8 grains of rice, enough to fill 8 baskets, which were carried to her by 8 royal deer whose hooves tapped the ground.
Okay, dear.
On the 27th day, 32 royal Brahma bulls were needed to deliver 64 baskets of rice.
I don't think that was 32. I think we need a little more.
The Empress was deeply troubled.
1 grain of rice has grown very great indeed, but I shall fulfill the reward to the end, as an empress should.
On the 29th day, Ronnie was presented with the contents of 2 royal storehouses. On the 30th and final day, 256 elephants crossed the province, carrying the contents of the last 4 royal storehouses. They carried 538,870,912 grains of rice.
And they made elephant noises.
Altogether, Ronnie had received more than 1 billion grains of rice. The Empress had no more to give. She sighed.
What will you do with this rice, now that I have none?
I shall give it to all the hungry people, said Ronnie. And I shall leave a basket of rice for you too, if you promise from now on to take only as much as you need. The Empress departed the Empress departed for her favorite room in the royal palace, the place where she made tough decisions. In the village, everyone fell silent, waiting. Would the Empress change her ways? Or would the people possibly face hunger again due to a greedy ruler? After much time, the Empress returned to declare her decision.
I promise that in the future, when there is hunger, I shall share my royal stores of rice.
And for the rest of her days, the Empress was truly wise and fair, as an Empress should be. The end.